if this gets seen by guys that haven't made their decision, I would tell them to jump in with both feet. That every penny I've spent, I've gotten back huge dividends. It's been super easy. It's required hardly any of my attention. I get to do what I do. You mentioned that a minute ago, talking about everybody's got their, you didn't use these words, but everybody's got their niche. There's things that I do that you couldn't do. And there's things that you can do that I can't do. And I like it when I find someone who can do what they do really well so that I can do what I do really well. And your company has provided me this opportunity of having record months. I mean, I shudder to think what it would look like if we weren't in COVID-19. I don't think that did anything but harm my business. I mean, I believe, forgetting whether people were staying at home or not, I believe that enough people are holding on to their money that if we'd done the same campaign without COVID, I'd have made twice as much, because I think your campaign and the way you build it and work it is so effective.
Are we still connected? Are we good?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. I can hear you too. So let's start talking about everything, about how we met and all that. What was it that, if you can even remember,
Sure, I can remember.
I can't remember what I had last week for breakfast, obviously, like who tracks that, but if you can remember what it was when you initially reached out to me that made you reach out to me, what was that?
Well, so last year when we decided to start doing roofing business virtually, long before COVID, I needed a lead source. I live in Indiana. We had not had any significant storm damage for quite some time, so I'm running a retail business model. And last year I had used various lead aggregators, without mentioning names. I think anybody in my business would be familiar with the names I mentioned. And I generally bought what are referred to as shared leads. My feeling on that was an exclusive lead was never really an exclusive lead anyways, because a homeowner, even if a large company who aggregates leads and runs ads on TV and the radio thinks that person is their sole customer, they're not. A person who's spending 10 grand on a roof, they're talking to more than one person. And so it would save me money. Well, those leads became very expensive, hard to get a hold of. They are the kind of thing that if you don't call in the first 2 seconds, they get thrown to the bottom of the pile. And they were inconsistent, meaning I could have a good week of leads and a bad week of leads, and the bad were starting to outweigh the good. And I needed something different. I have a family to support. I like my job, and I needed a consistent way of getting leads, and I needed it to match some kind of business profile that allowed me to make money. And I'm not old school in the sense that it had to be defined as a certain percentage. There are percentages I'd like to hit, but I had some moments of fear about the time that you and I hooked up related to COVID-19. And I was at the place where, if it cost me $3,000 and when I spent $3,000, I made $13,000, it didn't matter if those percentages added up. It mattered that I was up 10 grand now. You know what I mean? I mean, it didn't matter if some old business profile that says you don't spend more than 12% on marketing costs, it didn't matter to me, right? I mean, if I could walk into my bank, and not that that's been the case. I mean, my percentages are good, but I had to think about what I was doing, and I had to find somebody that I felt could be consistent. And the thing that attracted me to you was that you were willing to give this a shot on your dime. And admittedly, I spent money on the Facebook feed, but you were willing to work for me for a week for free. And that ballsy move impressed me. I'm attracted to people that believe in themselves, and I'm attracted to people that think they can make things happen. That works for me. And that's exactly what happened. You did work for a week. I don't remember that we necessarily exploded, but it was well within the parameters that you described, and I sold business that first week. You know, one of the things that makes that possible is if I'm not in the top 5 best salesmen of all time, I'm in the top 10. But it it helped very much that these leads that you provided, I got a hold of them. So when I was using lead aggregators, if I bought 10 leads and I got a hold of 4 of them, that was kind of a good week. And that was even a rush. Literally, you'd be doing something and you had to drop what you were doing to call within 3 seconds, which always was creepy anyways. I mean, I don't know if you've ever, filled out something online, for health insurance or something, and before you're done filling it out, somebody's on the phone. I mean, I find that way too big brother and way too creepy, but that's what I had to do. It just wasn't working. Your folks, the folks that you've helped me get connected to, act like they expected my call, were delighted to hear from me, and we had conversations. And, so that's how you and I met. And I don't know, was it March or April?
Probably mid-March.
I
think so.
That feels about right.
Yeah.
And you're still working for me for free. Oh wait, no, that's not true. No. So that's how it's worked, and it's been really successful. I had a record May. I did more in May than I would have ever thought. My moments of fear melted away. I thought people would hunker down and not spend their money because of this COVID-19 thing. People were losing jobs. Every time you open up a news feed, it was, some pretty dire predictions. And instead, I bought myself a new Tag Heuer watch. So
nice.
Yeah. So it worked out real well. So meeting you has been delightful and profitable for me. Very.
That's great. That's awesome to hear. I love hearing that. Tell me a little bit more about your business. There you go. That's beautiful. I'm not even wearing any of my stuff right now. I feel naked.
I'm just messing with you.
You know what though? To reward myself for having a good few months, despite all the challenges with COVID-19, I bought myself, because I also follow a lot of economics and market stuff, just because I'm interested in it. Bought myself real silver. So this is a real silver round, and it has Ellis Island on the back of it, which is just, I think, amazing.
What does it weigh? An ounce or something?
This is 5 ounces.
5 ounces. Okay. I'm many years away from measurements of that nature. So
so silver is really inexpensive in the grand scheme of things. This whole thing, this 5 ounce, it's gigantic, was like $150 or something like that.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. But then you compare it to this real piece of gold, which is tiny. I mean, look at that. And this was worth 5 times more than this.
Well, when you offered to send out those pieces of gold to your extremely happy customers, I was delighted with your new marketing approach. And unfortunately, my mail hasn't arrived with my package.
It's a little backed up.
Yeah.
That is something I would do. I would send my clients like precious metals. I don't know. I think we need to start buying precious metals and guns, but I don't know why I'm including that in this recorded video, but whatever. You know what? I only want to work with people that like freedom. So maybe they'll see this video and be like, all right, I like this guy.
Yeah, we're veering dangerously into politics. Let's talk marketing.
Let's talk marketing and roofing. So tell me more about your company, just, because I don't really think we touched on that. Like what's the name of your company? What service area is it? And
so we've been around since 2012. The name of the company is Palazzo Restoration. When I started the company, that's the Italian word for palace, and that seemed cute to me. you know, I'm Italian. I thought, you know, palazzo restoration would be great. Turned out to be a bit of a nightmare because nobody can spell it up to and including
Right.
on bad days. But we've been around since 2012. We're kind of a medium-sized company. We do nothing but roofing because our go-to-market strategy works best that way. I think we're right in the middle in terms of pricing because I don't have salespeople. I do all my own sales virtually. And so last year, out of 140 some odd clients, I think I met 3 of them before in an actual old school sales presentation where I went to their house. The other people, I didn't meet them until I went out there and picked up a check and picked out shingles. So we've been around a little bit. We do all of our sales virtually. I have a ton of help in the field, but no salespeople. I don't remember the rest of that question that you just asked me though, but that's who we are. That's the name of our company.
Yeah, just a little bit about your company, a little bit of background. So you're in the Indiana area.
Correct.
I'm
in a suburb of, well, I guess you'd call it a suburb or a bedroom community of Indianapolis called Carmel, Indiana. I service about a 60-mile area around where I'm at, plus or minus, and almost, well, not almost, but exclusively asphalt roofing as well.
Mm-hmm.
So although we get some requests for metal, we get some requests for wood shake, we don't do it. Our pricing models, which keeps us squarely in the middle, has to do with the fact that unless we're getting up above 40 squares, we can come in and do a roof in one day and move on. And so I do a cost per crew day kind of pricing as opposed to, again, a flat percentage. And so the bigger roofs end up costing my customers a little bit less than marketplace, the smaller ones a little bit more, because we have a flat profit margin that we want to make when we're working in a, you know, a one-day event, if that makes sense.
It does. And what kind of profit margins are you making?
Let me think about margins, because we don't really think about margins. That's not how we do it. We think about cost per crew day. And so we try to make on an under 40 square roof, we try to make somewhere between $2,500 and $2,800 on that job. And so if I spend, I don't know, $6,000 on material and add $2,500 to it, that job's an $8,500 job, which I can't do the math quick enough. You're the math guy. I'm about 40. Yeah, well, that too. Is that like 40%, something like that? 35-40% margin if I'm spending $6,000.
Yeah. And then what about the labor?
That's included in that.
Oh, that's included in the $6,000 something.
Yeah. So my material and labor, you know, on a, let's call it an average 30 square job, you know, I'm spending some number near $35,000 to $4,000 on material, and in that particular scenario, on a one-story walker, I'm spending another, you know, $2,500 on labor, and so those margins are really good for us. I mean, you know, I think when you're our size and you don't have a middle layer of management, meaning I don't have salespeople, I don't have a vice president of sales. I got people in the field, and they get paid, and they get paid really well. But when you don't have that middle layer of management, you can look at that for exactly what it is. If I subtract out my costs, you know, I'm netting a couple grand every day, and we do at least 4 to 5 roofs a week. You know, we're not going to end up, you know, chasing down the billionaires or you know, ending up on Forbes magazine. But you know, you make 10 grand a week to your head, you're living okay. You know, you can buy a watch. You can buy a watch once in a while.
You can buy yourself, you could have a whole arm full of watches. You can
Yeah.
open up a jacket full of watches. How how are you, and so are the 4 or 5 jobs a week all coming from, they're coming for, those jobs are coming from this system primarily, or do you have other
No. So
outlets?
I ceased spending money on anything else. It's all with you plus some referrals. So, we've been around a little bit. So in any given week, if we do 50, let's say we do 15 jobs a month, that's a little underneath our average. Well, maybe let's say 16, just to call it.
Mhm.
I usually have a couple of those that are referrals that we've just over time, I've built a network of real estate agents that I've worked with who,
Mhm.
an inspector calls out something and the new person just wants a roof.
Yep.
We had a very, very minor streak of inch and a half hail that hit a very, very limited area. I got a couple of referrals in May from that. But
Mhm.
no, you're kind of my huckleberry. You're kind of my bread and butter.
Mhm.
So I probably don't want you to know that, so you don't, hold me up money wise,
Oh, never.
and change it from working for free for all this time for free commercials, which we're grateful for.
Yeah.
Um, no, you're our source, and it's worked out really well. And I've referred you to other people. So one of the things that I've also done in addition to doing my own roofing company is I was a part of the founding team of One Click Contractor. It's a software system that allows you to use a bunch of different tools on one platform and sell remotely. And I have a connection of contractors that we've sold over time, and I've referred them out to you. I don't know how
Mhm.
many of those have actually resulted in jobs for you. I can tell you that there's still a body of contractors out there that are convinced that unless they're out at the house, kind of eyeball to eyeball and showing all their stuff, and I'm gonna put air quotes around this word, closing deals,
Mhm.
they're not going to be successful. And I'm, maybe because of my experience, I've been doing this a long time, maybe because although I'm older, I'm mildly teched up and I've seen this work. And also I think like a consumer. Um, I'm the kind of person that if you wanted to sell me windows or a roof, you can give me information about your
Mhm.
company, about the product that you're putting on, about your price. I'll figure it out. I'll make my own decision. You closing me is a matter of fact probably detrimental to your cause if you're trying to get me to pick you.
Mhm.
And I think in 2020, in 2019, I think there's a plethora of people out there that don't want to be jammed up. This is not 1962 anymore. We're not doing the Life magazine thing on your lawn like we're a
Mhm.
scene out of Tin Men. Well, you have to have seen that movie before
There's
that makes
so
sense.
many quotable moments in this interview already. Um, so tell me more about your system for selling roofs and for helping people get roofs. You do it virtually. Tell me how that works.
So here's the way it works. So, you run ads in Facebook for me. These people respond. I intentionally don't call them within seconds because I found that creepy. I try to get to them in 10, 15 minutes so it feels natural. I call them on the phone and I explain that we do this different than most people, and we've done it long before COVID-19. I tell them that my folks are pretty savvy individuals and they're not the kind of people that want to get pushed around. What they're really looking for, my customers, my homeowners, are information. They want to know if they've got the right people putting on the right product for the right price. And I tell them that in this age that we live in, I can get measurements on their home. And so I can put together this estimate, quote, proposal, whatever you want to call it. And all I need for them to do is be in front of a laptop, a computer, or a tablet for 15 minutes. And in that 15 minutes, this is pretending you're on the call with me, Mike, in those 15 minutes, I'm going to tell you why my company is the company you're going to want to pick. I'm going to tell you why the shingle I've picked is perfect for your home. And I'm going to tell you why my prices are spectacular. So all I need to do from you is get permission to find a time in your schedule where I can get you in front of a laptop, a computer, or a tablet for 15 minutes. I'll get everything else to you. And we can do all of this without putting your family at risk for COVID-19 or without wasting your time with people pushing you around at your kitchen table. How does that sound? As you can imagine, when you steer a customer with words, every one of my customers go, well, that'd be fabulous. I mean, I don't have, even last year, I don't even have like, God, I hope this isn't being watched by any old 85-year-olds, but I don't even have like old 85-year-olds going, well, I can't do that. Everybody knows how to open up a computer with an email. It's, you know what I mean? Once in a blue moon, I'll get somebody that's like, well, I only got my phone. And I go, well, the experience will be a little bit less. Be like watching a movie on your phone, but we'll still get you product, people, and price.
Yeah.
So we schedule that appointment. I then call them up. I send them an email. They open up the email. They hit a join button. And I have this really optically amazing proposal that allows me to tell them literally in 15 minutes who I am, why I've got perfect ratings on Angie's List, why I'm licensed, bonded, and insured, why I'm accredited and A+ rated, why I've chosen the shingle I've selected, and then I get to walk them through an estimate that has pictures, because God love them, when they're on this virtual meeting, pictures and word descriptions of what we're going to do tied with a price, we get done and people are amazed. And I ask them, did you like that? Yeah, that was really good. We do a price guarantee so that they see that their prices are good. That's all emailed to them in a packet that by the time we add a shingle brochure is probably 14 or 15 pages. We give them an opportunity of buying on that call, but almost always kind of try to do a little bit of a takeaway. We give them a discount if they'll take a free slot that we have. We'll save them $400, $500, $600 if they help us keep our guys working. So it's a little bit of a, if you help us, we'll help you. Or to steal a page out of what the politics, it's a quid pro quo deal, right? I'll give you a little bit of money off if you help me keep my guys working. And that date is something in the future, that allows them to save a little bit of money. And I tell them they're first come, first serve. And so I will have people on that call that go, so what do we need to do next, Tim? Because, maybe they've had quotes. One of the things that's in our packet of material is an article that talks about what average roof pricing is. So they feel like they've got educated. And then I have probably the most of my business comes within 24 hours or 48 hours. Tim, this is Bob. We talked on Saturday. We'd like to schedule that slot. Is it still open? And occasionally, if I'm feeling playful, I tell them it's not. So, but I'll still honor your discount. I've just got to move you to Thursday.
Yeah.
And that has been remarkably successful. We then schedule an appointment where we go out and do a roof inspection, pick out a shingle, and pick up a check. I work on a 70-30 basis, which is kind of unusual in my business. But that allows me to have everything, kind of all of my materials paid, the profits in my pocket. The final check, which we collect on the day we're done, pays the laborers, and everybody's out the door and pretty happy. And if you read my reviews, I have perfect reviews on every single review we've ever gotten.
That's awesome. So the homeowners in your service area see your ad on Facebook, they click it, they land on a page, they fill it out, it all gets sent to you. I don't remember, because I don't want to click over to look at how we set up the specifics for your campaign, but are you receiving, I know you're receiving an email notification. Are you receiving a text message as well when a lead comes in? Okay.
And that's actually crucial to me. I'm pretty attentive to my email. I get a notification on my phone when they come, but I'm much more attentive, like everybody, I think, in 2020, I'm much more attentive to my texts. And so we respond by text a lot. Like if I call them up and don't get a hold of them, we'll send them a text in addition to the voicemail, because I think texts are pretty powerful these days.
Do people ever respond via text?
Not as much. And I think,
Does it get them to pick up the phone or call you?
yes, a lot.
Yeah.
Occasionally I'll get something by text that says, thank you very much, I'll call you when I'm off of work, or something like that. But
It's good.
I mean, although I think it's pretty simple because I do it for a living, for most people, roofing purchases, and in that number, here in the Indianapolis marketplace, 8,500 to 10 grand is probably the average number. I think people want to talk to you a little minute about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
It's not as easy as,
It's not a small purchase. It's not like buying a watch.
it's very similar to buying a watch. That's funny. That's very funny. No, and speaking of that, I mean, you talk to people and you tell them, people buy roofs because they got it, not because they wanna. Occasionally you'll get a new homeowner with a lot of money to burn that wants to change the color, but most people do it because they've got to. But it doesn't have to be complicated. Just because it's 10 grand, it doesn't have to be complicated. Right people, right product, right price.
Mm-hmm. So what are your goals moving forward? Do you want to maintain the size of your company as it is right now and do, roughly 16 roofs on average a month? Or are you looking to grow the business?
Well, my immediate goal is more watch. No.
More watches.
More watches. So I'm in this unique spot where the size of my business for this marketplace kind of works perfect. I mean, I get a lot of jobs because of these perfect ratings. We use a really nice shingle by Owens Corning, and our prices are really good. I have also been approached through my relationships with One Click Contractor to start another company where we're going to provide sales and marketing help to contractors who are more interested in the field activity, the build design kind of aspect. So there's a bunch of roofers that came up on that build side that really, if they never had to deal with another salesman in their company again, they'd be a happy day for them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to do some outsourcing, and we're about to do that for a company out in New Jersey. So I don't know, what I think it means is that we'd like to help usher in this new world that allows homeowners to be a little bit more in charge, to move product in a way that's more in tune with 2020, and to use you. We're going to use you for marketing services, and I'm going to build a team of people to sell things. So I don't know if that answered your question, or maybe got more than you needed for this particular interview. But I think we want to help make buying roofs as simple as it can be and as tension free for a homeowner. I want to build something that appeals to me as a consumer.
Yeah, absolutely. And no, I think that's really awesome. And I think that if it's possible to be both ahead of the game, but exactly where you should be at the same time, I think I feel like that's where you are in your headspace about, or with regard to how things are moving technologically and from a consumer standpoint and how they experience dealing with a company. I think that, like, on the one hand, your willingness to do these things that require a bit of technology and whatever is exactly the right thing to do at this present time. But it's also, you're ahead of the game relative to a lot of other contractors in your position, because really just by virtue of them being kind of behind in the way that they're approaching things. But to their, or in their defense, I think they're the canvassing, they're from the canvassing, door to door, one sell, close in person, hard sales school. And that's the only thing that they've maybe seen work, because it does work. But selling a roof to someone without regard for how it felt for them to go through that is kind of what you are appreciating, and what you're taking into account. It's like, someone could knock on my door and have all the rebuttals to my rejection. They can know all the things to say to get me to talk to them, but the whole time I'm going to be like, man, I really just don't want to be doing this right now, and I don't want this person in my house, and blah blah blah. And even if they sold me a roof and the roof was great, it still wouldn't make that experience that I had to go through an enjoyable one to think back on.
Well, and so when you said that, I heard a couple of things, and a lot of this. So to be clear, I started in the one call close business. Mm-hmm. When I was 23 years old. I was selling timesharing to unsuspecting people in Waikiki Beach. If you made the mistake of trying to get a free luau ticket for you and your missus, you were either going to go on a lifetime of vacations in about 90 minutes, or you were going to be real unhappy about your choice of saving $45 on luau tickets. It was a one call close in every aspect of that. And I worked with a bunch of people that were real serious, up to and including pissing you off, making you mad if you didn't buy something that day. And I spent some time in the home improvement business in the late 90s and early 2000s doing that very thing. I used to work for a large sunroom manufacturer, $40,000 rooms, and you were there to close them that night. And you had no conversation about B-backs, because weak people talked about B-backs. And there's still contractors that feel that way. And I get that. If that's the way you were brought up and you're not open to change, maybe that's what you've got to do. But in actual fact, I get customers calling me up going, you made this process so easy, and we feel like your prices are fair. We just want to stop the process and get a roof from you. Mm-hmm. And that's specifically because of what you talked about. Nobody wants people in their home. I heard this from contractors at One Click. Well, people want us to come out. No, they don't. No, they absolutely do not want you as their new best friend.
Yep, exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
And I would like to tell you that in the home, I was charming and I did my job and I made it as entertaining as I could be. But at the end of the day, it was a 2-hour cruise that people, all they wanted was some information, some advice perhaps, and a price. Mm-hmm. They did not need me, using every Tom Hopkins trick in the book that I've learned over 40 years to jam them up. Mm-hmm. I come in behind people all the time right now. There's a couple of guys in my marketplace, real high market dollar guys and real high margin guys. And I get customers tell me about this all the time. They were here for 4 hours last night. They were in my attic for an hour. And not that stuff's not valuable. You need to know what you're dealing with in terms of an install, but that can be done as a post-sales process. It doesn't have to be done before. Mm-hmm. And I get people that go, Tim, the way your stuff looks online and the way you act online and the way the process worked online, we didn't buy that first day, but when we called so-and-so and they said they wanted to set up a time to meet us in our home for 90 minutes, we were like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Just call him up, get him out here to pick out shingle color. And I'd flip that to you, Mike. So what would you and your wife rather do? Would you like to have me in your house for a couple hours? I'm pretty sure you would.
Not a chance. Well,
and I'm not going to get my feelings hurt about that, but I'm pretty sure
I don't want anyone in my house. Even before COVID, I wouldn't have wanted someone just hanging out in my house trying to sell me something, because if you're not interested, asking someone to leave is just so uncomfortable. It's so you noticed that people had the same feeling about your service versus others even before coronavirus.
Well, and to be fair, I was trying to tip that scale. I mean, I was trying to prove a point that you could sell roofs online without the 2-hour sales tour. And I
Mm-hmm.
won that argument, and I continue to win it almost every single time. I
Yeah.
started, my kid, although I'm an old guy, I've got a 17-year-old, and we started this process about 5 years ago. And I would ask all these parents, would you rather if you were going to buy a roof, would you rather have a guy in your house for 2 hours, or would you rather have a guy give you information and a price and let you
Mm-hmm.
decide? Well, guess what they said? I mean, admittedly, it was a leading question, but guess
Right.
what they said? I'd rather have the information and the price. I can figure this out myself. I
Mm-hmm.
don't, and I don't know. Obviously, I'm very pro and biased on how I do this,
Mm-hmm.
but I've had experience and feedback from people in the field that make me feel like I'm right. And and I'm not trying to alienate your customers, but this old school idea that the only way I can sell roofs is to get into the house and close them. If I'm not there, I've heard this. These are the words. If I'm not there to close them, Tim, I'm not sure they're going to buy from me.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole lot wrong with that statement.
Right. Right. I mean, if you were to reword it, it would just be like, if I'm not there to make them make a decision that they wouldn't have otherwise made, given the information, then they're not going to buy from me. And that's pretty telling, that someone wouldn't buy from you given the information alone about what their options are.
Well, and that's the way I think. I mean, I still go in behind guys. So with your help, we wrote 4 deals last week, and it was a slow week. I don't know if your customers know that, Facebook kind of slowed down a tick. Nothing radical. It wasn't.
Yeah, actually, across the whole country for the past 4 weeks, I would say, and I attribute it to the country opening back up, less people online because they're getting out more businesses running ads on Facebook, so there's a higher demand for eyeballs. Literally less eyeballs and a higher demand for eyeballs. Perfect storm. Slowed down a little bit. Some clients experienced it a little bit harder than others, but either way, we all got through it. But that's the nature of Facebook. It's a system that generates leads as opposed to, me selling leads to you. You're actually generating them for your own company.
But despite that, we sold 4 jobs last week, and I was in a house where I was using an Owens Corning duration product. I came behind a company that used an Owens Corning duration product. My job got priced out at 10 and some change, 10,000 and some change. I came in behind a company that pitched that job at $52,000. This is the homeowner talking. And within 10 minutes made a $12,000 drop. So this nosebleed drop got him down to 38,000, and my job was 10. And
for the same job?
For the same job.
Wow.
And so this old school tactics of big drops, right? So in the business, we call that a nosebleed drop. You used to see it when you're selling sunrooms, right? It's a $60,000 room until you tell me you got to think about it. And then, magically that $60,000 room became $48,000 because I just happened to have a truckload sale going on. It's like, really, seriously?
Yeah, that's such BS, and people can see through that. I think that's a variation on the price anchoring sales technique, which I think is a smart technique to use, but only if you do it honestly. Like, price anchoring would say, give them 3 options in terms of what they could get. Make one option like the cream of the crop, like the Rolls Royce of roofs, every bell and whistle possible, plus ridiculously high-end shingles or whatever the case may be. Which is not even the one that you intend to sell, but that price is the high one. Then, because you start with that price, they're anchored at thinking that that's how much a roof costs. And then the middle one, which is significantly less money, but still a really good margin, maybe even priced on the higher end for what exactly they're getting relative to the top priced option, seems like a really good bargain for a roof. So you're really pushing them to the middle. And then the lowest price one is like, it's enough to keep water out of your house, but it's like, it's not the greatest option, but it's still good enough. So you push them to that middle ground.
And I think,
and that's a powerful thing to do, but only if you do it honestly.
and those are just different ways of selling, and I agree that's a great way. Not how I happen to do it, but I think the overview is that all that stuff that used to work in the past worked under this veil of secrecy that people just didn't know what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
With the advent of the internet and it started to feel like this started to change in 2006 and 7. People know way more. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
way more about your company, your product, and your price
Mm-hmm.
models than they ever did. There's no, go back and watch that Tin Man movie. They didn't have to worry about price anchoring because no one knew what vinyl siding cost or aluminum siding back in the day. Now, if I want to know what the average price of a roof is in your town, I can find that out. And I don't need a sales guy out there.
Yeah.
So you don't get to hide like you used to.
Yeah. I think the best sales technique now, and this is what I use for my company, is number one, ridiculous honesty, just insanely perfect transparency and honesty, straightforward, full disclosure, everything that you could possibly want to know, no spin.
Yep.
And number two, actually doing a good job. I think those two things you really can't lose. There are contractors out there, there are digital marketers out there who their goal is to get as much money out of everyone as possible, but they do it to the detriment of their own close rate because they treat every sale like a gamble, and they say, I'm going to see if I could get an extra 50% out of this, woman, Jill. I think I could tell her roof's $33,000 instead of 20. I think I could convince her I'm going to go for 33 and then I'll drop down to 20 and we'll see what happens. Well, if Jill has the internet, so, she definitely does. She probably knows what's going on. So the way to win Jill over is with just brutal honesty, because if you're in her house and you're talking to her, or if you're over the computer like you are, she can leave, or that interaction can do one of two things. It can either build trust or destroy it.
Mm-hmm.
And building trust is the only way to win long term.
Well, I mean, I think if not to get too much into who's got a moral base or not, but that's the way the universe works. If I'm more concerned with my customer than I am chasing money, money follows. If my prime motivation is to make sure my customers are absolutely delighted and loved the experience, money's going to take care of itself.
Well, that's the beauty of capitalism, really. I mean, it's the fact that what is in your interest is to do what's in the interest of the customer, because your interest is in making money and buying watches and taking care of your family and buying good food and having a nice home to live in and go on vacation once in a while. Yeah, that's in your interest. So therefore, it's in your interest to make sure that your clients want to pay you and that you get clients. So the only way to do that is to do a good job. And the only way to do a good job for someone is to get them over the finish line of actually hiring you. And I think that across the board, it's just about doing what's right, and the money follows as a result.
I think you're 100% correct. And I think at the end of the day, although there's a whole bunch to like about the way we do business and who we are, I think our customers understand, and it's verified through reviews, that we go into our jobs with the idea that the last question we're going to ask ourselves is, did we give it our best? And unfortunately, in this world we live in, whether it's at the Home Depot or at the grocery store or at Palazzo Restoration, other people's question is, that's good enough, isn't it? And that's absolutely the wrong question. If that's the question you're asking, I don't know, you've got a youngster in your house, I got a 17-year-old. I mean, that's what I'm trying to get my kid to understand, that the question you ask yourself when you're done is, did I give that my best shot? Did I do the best job I could? If you do that, everything else is going to take care of itself.
Yeah.
I think, maybe I'm old, not old school, just old. But
no, I think that's exactly right. And I think that to kind of come at it from a different angle and to make another point, because we were talking about margins and how you price jobs and how much money you make on a job and things like that. One of the mistakes that contractors make, often roofing contractors, remodelers, all different types of contractors, and really anyone in general that is in business for themselves and that sells a product or service, is in order to win a customer, they think it's all about the price that the customer's buying on, when in reality, it's the value that they buy on. They obviously consider the price as part of their equation with regard to determining who they're going to hire, but ultimately it's the value that they're going to get from a company. And unfortunately, contractors have a really strong tendency to race to the bottom because they think that if they're the cheapest, people are going to buy from them. The result is multifaceted in terms of how bad it goes if that happens. And one of the main things is, if you don't feel like, or if you know you're not actually making money on this customer because the only way you won them over was to give them everything basically at cost and maybe make a few $100 on the job, you're definitely going to cut corners, because now you have to remove value in order to make up for the profit margins that you've destroyed. So you don't put on the drip edge, or you use different, or something with the underlayment is there's a corner cut there, or you're not even doing a ridge vent properly. You're cutting shingles with a scissors that you found in your kitchen, whatever it is. I don't even know if these terms make sense, but
don't let any roofers just see what you just said about
yeah. Good thing this is not for roofers.
Nobody uses
listen, I do what I do, you do what you do. Separation of powers here for a reason. But but you get the point. I mean, if can you still hear me?
I can.
Okay, good. My thing made a weird sound. Yeah, I mean, if you are cutting corners, you're going to have to make up for it somehow. So,
well, that's one of the benefits of operating in 2020 is you might get away with that in the short term, but you get exposed. I mean, that's the power of reviews and Angie's List and Google. That stuff it's out there. You know what I mean? It's not like you can do bad work and people don't know about it.
Do people ever comment when you get them on the phone the first time on the ads themselves that they saw? You ever ask them how they found you, or do they ever just offer that up?
No, I don't really ask them how they found us, because that question, I already know.
You already know the answer, yeah.
And it has no real value in part of a conversation with them, so it doesn't matter to me. I'd start talking to them about what they wanted to talk about. They wanted to talk about their house and their roof. So no.
You said that they are expecting your call when you do call them, and because I know that when you get leads from Home Advisor, Angie's List, things like that, there's a tendency to call people and then their reaction being like, "Why are you calling me? Who are you? Right. I didn't even want you to call." Why do you think people are more aware of the call that they're going to get from you and all that?
I suspect it's the landing pages that you built. I mean, I think they're prepared, and you make a cogent case why they're going to want to talk to me. I mean, I'm sure other people have seen the marketing that you do for me. So we do talk to them about value. And in my particular ads, we talk to them about no pushy salesman in their home. And so I think people want to know a little bit more about that. I think the landing page clearly indicates that they're going to put in information and they're going to get information back via a phone call. I don't know if it actually says phone call, but I know they expect to have some further interaction to get more information. And so I have rarely had anybody, going, "How'd you get my number? Who are you?" When I call, I introduce myself. This is Tim at Palazzo Restoration, local roofing company. You had requested a little bit of information, perhaps some advice on definitely pricing on a roofing project. Do I have that right? Yep.
It's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's really good for me. I mean, it's really good for me. And then, in terms of a commercial for you, every time I've needed you, you've been responsive to me. And I understand that you do that in the midst of having a pretty busy schedule yourself. I think your value to my company in terms of, let's not talk about just racing to the bottom for numbers, but in terms of value, I feel like I'm getting full value for my money. We have done minor changes that both of us were interested in exploring, and I think you've been open to more. I don't know how to give you more accolades without sounding like you're paying me.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
it's been really good for my company.
That's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. Speaking to the minor changes, you actually texted me, I think last night, because you wanted to exclude a particular zip code from your targeting for the ads. Tell me about that.
So in Indianapolis, there's different municipalities with different building requirements and different building departments. So Indianapolis does it a certain way. Where I live in Carmel, Indiana, you don't need a building permit. I can go to Speedway, Indiana, the home of the greatest spectacle in racing, and I do need a building permit. I need to schedule an inspection with the inspector, and he's really good about that, but he wants to come up and look at your nailing patterns and make sure your deck is good. He wants to walk the roof. But the way they do it is timed really cool. The zip code that you sent me, I got a lead 2 weeks ago, sold it, went to their building department because my license, and they require a separate license and bond. And I didn't build one there last year, so it wasn't renewed. I went to renew it, and they have a new inspection process where I'm not allowed to do anything. I have to tear off all the old roof nails and underlayment and wait for their inspection. Their words were, it could take anywhere from 4 to 6 hours from your inspection time for us to get there. Well, without using every 4-letter word I know, I'm unwilling to have my guys sit around on a roof, and they work by the square. So it's not like it's costing me per hour. I pay them by the square. I'm not going to have them sit there and do that. And this little burg, I'm not going to mention its name because I'm just not, but this little burg, I have a good enough roofing business and I do enough jobs elsewhere that those people, I don't need to work in that marketplace. I'm not going to do that. I went out and actually bought the bond before I went, and it was nothing. It was a $10,000 bond. It cost me $100 or some crap. But I went to the building department and I'm having them run me through this again. And I went, wait a second, I have to wait? And I go, couldn't I schedule it? And they go, well, you can schedule morning or afternoon, but the morning slots are always taken. I'm like, well,
that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, something doesn't feel right about that.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I had to walk back and hand this lady this check that she gave me. I said, I just don't want to work in this environment.
Yeah.
And so that zip code, I got 2 more leads, one last night and 2 of them last week. And I let those other 2 go thinking, whatever, you're giving me enough leads and it's just part and parcel of doing business. But then when I got one this morning and I knew we were going to talk, I figured your lack of attentiveness to my account. No.
Yeah.
No, I figured I don't know exactly how that works, honestly, in Facebook, whether kicking a zip code out.
You texted me last night about that zip code. So this morning when I woke up, I just excluded that zip code from all of your ad sets. So in none of your none of your ads are showing in that particular zip code anymore.
Well, and maybe some of your other contractors will ask this, but I've had only two in the, I'm going to use a technical term here, in the shitload of amount of leads you've sent me. One of them I got was from Chicago, which is like 4 hours away from me.
Yeah.
And I got one, I want to say it was from Georgia or Florida or somewhere.
Yeah.
And I don't know technically how that works, short of maybe somebody sharing it to one of their friends who lives in Georgia. I don't know how that works.
That's precisely how it works, actually. I can explain it. And this happens all the time with people. You know, I'll have a client in Indiana like you, or, you know, in Texas, and they get a lead in Florida or something. And that's, you know, the initial reaction from the client is, you know, to text me or call me, you know, because they think that they've paid for a lead that they can't service, because they're used to paying for leads from Home Advisor, Angie's List, other lead selling services. This is not a lead selling service, it's a lead generating service. And so one of the imperfections of Facebook, which is also one of its merits, really, if you think about it, is that other people that you're not paying to show your ad to could still see your ad in many different ways. So Facebook is a platform where individuals can experience things together, and not everyone's circle of friends is limited to their neighborhood. Some people have friends that live in different states. A lot of people do. So, and not just friends, but people they're advertising to. So if you're advertising to a 20-mile radius around a center point, and the person in that 20-mile radius who you want to reach and you want to pay to reach has a friend in Florida, and they share, like, or comment on your post, then their friend in Florida might see it on their newsfeed because their friend in Indiana just liked, shared, or commented on something. So if the person in Florida clicks your ad, lands on your landing page, and doesn't realize that you are only servicing that place that you service, then they might fill out the form and become a lead.
So
at which point,
deducting those 3 leads from what I owe you is not acceptable? Is that where we're going with this?
Correct, because you're not paying for leads. You're paying for a service to generate them. So, yeah.
Well, that changes.
The only thing, the only downside to it really is just kind of like the buzzkill of, oh, I got another lead. Oh crap, it's in Alaska. You know, I can't service them. So, but otherwise, you don't actually pay for that. So, and in fact, you've probably saved money in other ways, because when someone shares your post, they're sharing it with people, and it's not costing you anything to reach the people that it reaches as a result of the share. So, you know, another thing that is interesting about, or that's good about this particular system that I've created, is that not only do you get leads, but you get the brand uplift of tens of thousands of people per week seeing your ad and seeing your company on Facebook. There are other Facebook advertising people like me who generate leads for companies, but they don't use the actual company's Facebook page to do it. And so the company they're advertising for gets 0 brand uplift and brand recognition as a result of the ad. So if you're going to pay for ads on Facebook, or if you're going to pay for leads that come from Facebook, you really should definitely get that brand uplift associated with advertising through as your actual business, and not through some generic lead generation system. So, so that's pretty cool. So that's awesome. So, if you had to wrap up what we've talked about, how would you do that?
Well, I suppose, and I would say this by way of gratitude, I would tell you, I would say that if you have roofing customers who haven't decided whether they're using you until, so you'll hear people do this. Well, can I talk to a customer that's used your services, right? And that may or may not have some validity, but if this gets seen by guys that haven't made their decision, I would tell them to jump in with both feet. That every penny I've spent, I've gotten back huge dividends. It's been super easy. It's required hardly any of my attention. I get to do what I do. You mentioned that a minute ago, talking about everybody's got their, you didn't use these words, but everybody's got their niche. There's things that I do that you couldn't do. And there's things that you can do that I can't do. And I like it when I find someone who can do what they do really, really well so that I can do what I do really, really well. And your company has provided me this opportunity of having record months. I mean, I shudder to think what it would look like if we weren't in COVID-19. I don't think that did anything but harm my business. I mean, I believe, forgetting whether people were staying at home or not, I believe that enough people are holding on to their money that if we'd done the same campaign without COVID, I'd have made twice as much, because I think your campaign and the way you build it and work it is so effective.
That's awesome. Well, I'm really happy to hear that. That really makes my day.
Well, well, and not to mention the fact that we've had conversations offline that make me feel like I'm dealing with someone who actually cares about my business. You've asked questions about me and my family. Makes me feel like you care about what's going on in my world. And that, it goes back to the same thing that I try to do. If you're genuinely trying to be of service and help the people that interact with you, everybody knows people makes money. I know you make money doing what you do. And I tell people, you mentioned, blatant honesty. I tell people all the time, I'm making money on this job. If you think I'm not, you're wrong. I live in America, and America's been Betty good to me,
Betty good.
Betty good to me. And I'm making money on it. But I'm going to do a killer job for you.
Yeah.
And you do a killer job for me. And for that, I'm grateful. My family's grateful. My watch.
I'm grateful. It's awesome. Well, this was a great conversation, Tim. Thanks so much for the time today. And I'll probably talk to you in a couple of minutes anyway. You got it, brother. Thank you very much for helping. I hope your day's blessed and the kiddo's doing good. Thanks, man. You too. Say hi to the family. That's a good-looking kid you got. Have you guys chased down the father? I mean, have you guys gotten that figured out? We have a mailman from you. Yeah, mailman. In my family, it was the milkman, but yeah, the mailman. Yeah, we have a mailman who, winks at me a lot, but I don't know. Calls your kid's son. That's usually the giveaway, right? Yeah. All right, brother. You have a killer day. You need me, let me know. Thanks. You too. Bye.